we're just going to jump right in. Good morning, everybody in the chat room, and hello and welcome and everybody and all that stuff and the stuff that's going on. I'm Hal Sparks. That's Johnny Million. Welcome to the Hal Sparks radio program. I go worldwide. We're about to start in just a second. We get like a couple 20 seconds away, something like that. And we are currently. We'll have to keep. I'm going to have to call it up on my. Let's see. C-SPAN Live. Whoops, wrong thing. Wrong keyboard. We're almost there. Hi, chat room. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. This is us setting up. Johnny's got coffee. I've got a beverage. We're ready to.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
Well, by golly, we are in the midst of a Vote-O-Ramma. Rama? Rama. Rama? Rama. I'm going to go with Rama as well.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a voting-o-Rama going on. If you don't know, the Senate has literally been up all night. For all night long, all night. They've been working on amendments, and they spent 12. I mean, not all the time. Obviously, they spent 12 hours trying to convince Joe Manchin that $400 is better than $300 for UI for unemployment insurance. They eventually settled on $300 and moved on. It took them about 12 hours of debate back and forth mixed in with that. There was a pause in the vote while they wrangled him, which is interesting, too, because one of the big stories from yesterday was, of course, Bernie Sanders' amendment to add the $15 minimum wage rise to the COVID bill, which the parliamentarian said you can put in there, but then you can't use reconciliation to pass the bill. Doesn't mean you can't put the bill up. Just means you can't do it with 50 plus the VP. You can do it with a regular vote. It doesn't mean you can't be in there, but you can't do it with reconciliation, because reconciliation is only for things that directly affect the budget expenditures of the federal government. Meaning it's basically there and essentially there so that one party can't shut down the entire spending of the government over the voice of a slim majority of the other party just to ruin the government during their time in office, essentially. And so Bernie Sanders' amendment would have raised the threshold for the vote on this bill to make it pass to 60 votes. He also needed 60 votes to get it in the actual bill, which he was never going to get either. So if he was successful, the end result would mean that the COVID relief bill, the American Rescue Act, would have been voted down because the Democrats don't have 10 Republicans who will vote with them. And it's not 9 votes because the only time the VP votes is when it's a tie. She doesn't get an extra vote all the time. So by offering that amendment, Bernie Sanders threatened to raise the threshold for the vote from 50 plus the VP to 60 votes. So when Kristen Sinema danced down to the floor in her, Catholic schoolgirl outfit and gave the thumbs down, it seems, curiously enough, that she was dancing down there in her own weird Arizona way to give the thumbs down to this amendment that would raise the threshold to 60 votes, not to the idea of $15 as a minimum wage, because she supports a standalone bill, and her state, Arizona, is already on track to beat that timeline in raising their minimum wage to 15 before Bernie's bill or any of the other bills that would raise the national $15, national minimum wage to $15. Arizona is already on track $1 a year to get there before then. So within 3 years, there'll be a $15 minimum wage in Arizona. It's at somewhere in the order of 10 or 12 now, and it will keep going up $1.
So why not do like a snarky dance?
Sure, right, yeah. I mean, because she didn't have her, one of her weird, blue dolly wigs or whatever. She, her her odd headdresses that she wears, and so you have to dance, I suppose.
I've never heard of her before I saw that mess.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, go back and look. We're this close to having a live cosplayer serving in the Senate. I mean, but she could be the honorable senator from Comic-Con by most standards. But she was also part of the group that was off in the corner, according to reports yesterday, haranguing Joe Manchin to get him to get on board with a higher UI. So while we're getting the news that she's evil incarnate because of her thumb down dance, which is about the amendment, not the $15 rise, she's also in the pack that was trying to bully Manchin into supporting a higher unemployment insurance output. So curious finagling, different priorities. It's almost as if the Democrats have a diverse caucus with a lot of ideas on how to solve problems, and they argue about it sometimes within themselves, instead of, on the Republican side, which everyone seems to forget, is a block wall against all help. I mean, I think in many ways, one of the reasons why Dems are getting, sort of bad press within their own group in the last day, as they are about to, by the way, pass this bill very possibly during this show, as they've been, finagling with the details of it and putting it all together and actually getting it through. And they will eventually. I mean, Kamala Harris is waiting in the wings to go down there and vote on a 50-50 coin flip and toss it the Democrats' way, as they've worked out all this stuff. And what's argued within this is not simply for and against it overall. There are spending differences state by state, and those arguments are being had. Functional government is occurring from conservative to liberal entirely within the Democratic Party. You have a functioning, broad tent conversation on theory happening as far as you can go being conservative without being a lunatic, in the case, I suppose, of Joe Manchin, and as far progressive as you can be without being a lunatic in terms of some of the House Dems and well, I mean, Bernie's an independent, but you get my point. That's all happening, real governing, all happening in the Democratic Party or the Democratic caucus. So a lot of people forget that the Republicans are effectively just a wall right now. They have given up on governing entirely. They are basically hoping that they can run on the cost of this thing after July of this year, which is exactly when almost all of it will have been either put into the economy or set up to be spent for, adding proper ventilation to schools, which will, giving PPE to schools in case they have outbreaks not only of this, but of the flu and the like, which will, for the record, lower the amount of flu deaths in children, as well as fix.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Right. Obviously, a flat-out negative in terms of these folks.
Now, if it's hey, look, I'm pro-life, pal.
Right. I'm pro-life. But before they start living. Once they start living.
And until then, once they start, costing money.
Yeah. Then what you really have is I think we can all agree that they're responsible for original sin. You know what I mean?
They're really just money pits after that.
Yeah, exactly. These kids today. And they're currently, we'll bring it up in the next break, and we'll listen in on what's happening live in the Senate right now, as they have been voting for 24 hours, or arguing for 24 hours, offering endless amendments. And, of course, Ron Johnson, Q-Russia, offered, he forced a full reading of the bill on the floor. He had, I believe, Senate aides had to come down and read the whole text, which took about 11 hours. Had to read it all the way through. Ran into a bit of a snag in his in his strategy, in that he was not there. He was not keeping track of when they were done. None of the Republicans were. They just left. So what happened? Yeah, as soon as the reading was done, a Democrat offered asked for a vote, and this is based on 3/5 of the vote that's in the room at the time, to limit further debate to 3 hours instead of 20 hours or 10 hours. And so the reading of the bill actually shaved about 10 hours off of it because none of the Republicans were there to do their job, which is, of course, simply to object. So that screwed the pooch right there on the floor. So they are now, people are entering in amendments that, unlike Sanders' amendment, for example, on the Democratic side, people are offering amendments that are budget related, would need 60 votes to get in, but wouldn't change the vote threshold for the whole bill to 60 votes, if that makes sense. Republicans are all adding either amendments that are like, make every day Dr. Seuss Day, or like reverse the Dr. Seuss's own family's removal of the books that they thought had racist tropes in them, and swap them out. So keep those and get rid of all the other ones. Get rid of Green Eggs and Ham, but keep the ones that are problematic. Against the wishes of the family trust, whatever. But in all honesty, like right now, Rob Portman is on the floor. We'd have to check in to know what they're, and we'll take a break. We're going to check in with what they're actually presenting on the floor right now as amendments. But they've only got about 3 minutes apiece for each of them. So they get to banter back and forth. There's a floor vote. No, it takes time. It's a drag. Basically, they're just, but all of the amendments have about 3 hours from 8:30 this morning they're in to, and that could be stretched out because of bathroom breaks and snack breaks and whatnot, that will basically finish leading us to a floor vote on the American Rescue Act today, within the next hour or so. So fingers crossed we'll get over that threshold, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, also streaming at infotainmentwars.com. We have the documents. Also nudesmax.com will take you there. I'm not kidding. We'll be back.
You got Nudesmax?
I did. Don't believe me?
Oh, I believe you. But it doesn't make me want to try it. How many X's in Max?
Just one. I couldn't afford the other 3. Or the other 2.
Nudesmax.com. Mm-hmm. Hello. There's Hal right there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm like, I get these, I get these troll URLs for all these sites. So I might get Rudy Giuliani's commonsense.com, because he thinks that's what his URL is, and he always screws it up.
What does he think it is?
He thinks it's Rudy Giuliani's commonsense.com, and it's rudygiulianics.com. That's his real website. Oh. But he keeps saying it because he's stupid.
He's not smart.
So, yeah. So it's his way of getting it. Let me see. I'm going to check in on C-SPAN.
Mr. Hoven. No. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. No. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. No. Mr. Inhofe.
No.
Mr. Inhofe.
Coming back in 20 seconds.
No. Mr. Johnson. No. Mr. Johnson. No. Mr.
Ron Johnson's just...
No.
No!
Kelly. Aye. Mr. Kennedy. No. Mr. Kennedy. No. Mr. King. Mr. King. Aye. Ms. Klobuchar. Ms. Klobuchar.
I think this might be...
Aye. Mr. Langford. Mr. Langford.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks
Mr.
radio
Leahy.
program, Mega Worldwide.
Mr. Leahy. Aye. Mr. Lee.
We are listening in...
Mr. Lee.
To, according to what
Lujan.
C-SPAN 2 says,
Mr. Lujan. Aye.
is
Ms.
the
Lenis.
Vote on
Islamists.
passage
No, Mr.
of the
Manchin.
$1.9 trillion COVID-19
Mr. Manchin.
relief plan
Aye, Mr. Markey.
as amended.
Mr. Markey. Aye, Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall. No. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McConnell. No. Mr. Menendez.
Whoa.
Mr. Menendez. Aye, Mr. Merkley. Mr. Merkley. Aye, Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran. No. Ms.
No.
Murkowski.
No.
Ms. Murkowski. No. Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy. Aye, Mrs. Murray. Mrs. Murray. Aye, Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Ossoff.
He's been voting as Ossoff.
Aye, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Padilla, aye. Mr. Paul.
Mr. Padilla,
Paul.
aye.
No. Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters, aye. Mr. Portman. Mr. Portman. No. Mr. Reed.
New.
Mr. Reed, aye. Mr. Risch. Mr. Risch. No. Mr. Romney. Mr. Romney. No. Ms. Rosen.
What the F, Mitt Romney?
Yeah,
Mr.
really.
Rosen, aye. Mr. Rounds. Mr. Rounds. No. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Rubio. No. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders. Aye. Mr. Sass. Mr. Sass. No. Mr. Schatz.
There you go. So
Mr.
all of you who
Schatz.
think that Ben
Mr.
Sass
Schumer.
is one of those odd
Mr.
Republican
Schumer,
saviors,
Aye.
here he is voting against this.
Mr. Scott of Florida. Mr. Scott of Florida, no. Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no.
Here we go.
Mrs. Shaheen. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mr. Shelby. Mr. Shelby, no. Miss Cinema.
There's a lot of southern sounding no's.
Miss
in there.
Cinema, aye. Miss Smith. Miss Smith, aye. Miss Stabenow. Miss Stabenow, aye. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Tuster. Mr. Tuster, aye. Mr. Thune. Mr. Thune, no. Mr. Tillis.
No.
Mr. Tillis, no. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Toomey, no. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Tuberville, no. Mr.
If
Van
they lose
Hollen.
a single Republican, they don't
Van
need
Hollen,
a
aye.
tiebreak from the VP.
Mr. Warner.
Which
Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Warnock.
them drawing that line
Mr.
is
Warnock, aye.
such a
Ms.
weird
Warren.
gamble.
Ms. Warren, aye. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Mr. Wicker.
What's in a name?
Mr. Wicker, no. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Wyden, aye. Mr. Young. Mr. Young, no.
Let's see, they're going to final tabulate. That was Mr. Young is the last one, ironically enough. They are tabulating the votes now. Let me guess, 50-50.
Yeah.
This is what we've been listening to for those who's at home and those that are sitting with us, is we've been listening to the floor vote on the passage of the $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan as amended, meaning with the amendments put forward in the last 24 hours that got passed, of all of which I think the only one was a modification in UI from 400 back to 300. For the record, by the way, they're still calling it the $1.9 trillion thing, which if you would shave $100 off of this would seem to lower that number somewhat. At least, you know, if you're talking the UI goes to about 86 $1 billion, somewhere in that order, it would shave off a quarter of that, one would think. But, Schumer says they've got the votes. It looks like they're doing elbow bumps. There's a lot in here. I'll bring this up under Johnny so we can kind of split screen he and they. Let's see, how do I move this here and here? I'm going to put this above and Johnny below. There you are. So above, yes, it's right above you. The vote has stood. They are going to, and it was a voice vote. So, 50 yes votes, 49 no votes. So somebody wasn't present to vote or voted present or ditched out. It's curious because all they need is a simple majority. If they had one vote against removal, that's the simple majority. You don't need 51, you need 50-49. That may have been just the way that they passed it. That might be what the excitement is about in terms of Schumer elbow bumping with people.
Yeah, maybe so.
So currently we are waiting to see if they announce that. Yeah, there's a lot of everybody. Let's see if I can blow that up. But everybody's walking over, touching elbows to Schumer because it looks like a clean vote on the floor. Let's see if I can again move these guys over here so they can see them with you, Johnny. So there's a little bit of talking. He's going to make a statement. They brought his statement about the vote, and then we will see in just a moment. I believe that's how it works out. I mean, it's a simple majority in a reconciliation. They only need the one vote difference. If it's anything over...
No senator wishes to change their vote. If not, the yeas are 50, the nays are 49. The bill as amended is passed.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Passed on reconciliation, not with a vote from the vice president, but with a vote present or one negative vote removed. I am now curious so HR 1319, the American Rescue Plan Act, has passed the Senate with amendments. None of the amendments change the vote threshold, so it doesn't get bounced back down to the House. Insofar as I know, it goes straight to Biden for his signature. There's a lot of elbow touching, and Schumer's tapping his podium. He's very excited. See if they have a statement from them, and I believe that's not the minority leader. I think that's So he's about to make a statement. Schumer's about to make a statement from the floor about the passage of the bill. They've got the roving stenographer from the House with her little computerized stenographer machine strapped around her shoulder. It always reminds me of people that sold cigarettes and snacks in the 20s. It's got a single strap and this little box, and it rests against your hip. And they just walk around. They can walk right up to you and type, especially during COVID when everybody's wearing masks. And in case their mic goes out and you want to get everything that they said. Sullivan from Arkansas has not voted all night. He may be sick. Now I think it has to go back to the House. We shall see, although I don't think so. I don't think they need there may be a second vote on it after this, but...
The Majority Leader?
I move to proceed to executive session to consider calendar number 12.
Questions on the motion?
Questions on the motion?
All in favor say aye.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Those opposed, no.
The ayes appear to have it.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
I ask unanimous I note the absence of a quorum.
Call the roll.
Call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
So, I noticed that not everybody's in here. I noticed that a bunch of the Republicans left, is basically what he's saying, is that now that they can't hold things up with an amendment and the bill is going to pass, not based on the VP breaking the tie, but because one of their own didn't vote or wasn't available to vote or voted present, that is enough to make a bunch of them buzz off. They even said the ayes have it when they said the ayes appear to have it and do have it in that last little momentary vote. The reason they could say that is because there's so few people in the actual room, So we're gonna hear from them in just 1 second, but for all practical purposes, but for the all the wailing and gnashing of teeth over the last 24 hours, the American Rescue Act has passed the Senate. And now we'll, let's see. I don't believe the amendments affect the House vote in any way. It's a curious thing. So, let's see. Senator pass. Yeah, Master. I'm looking for when it actually goes to his desk, because I know he's basically sitting there pen in hand for whenever this process happens. Prior to the vote, Politico reported as of Saturday morning the Senate had been in session for more than 24 hours straight with the Vote-O-Ramma, Ramma, big hitter, the Ramma, taken up most of the time with several more hours to go. Senate Democrats largely stuck together throughout the night and staved off GOP efforts to drastically change the bill. While some Democrats defected on a handful of GOP amendments, those amendments require 60 votes to pass. Didn't matter. So largely show votes. Democrats also sidestepped the quagmire of undocumented immigrants that infuriated liberals last month after some moderates supported a proposal barring those immigrants from receiving checks. All 50 Democrats banded together to reject an amendment from Senator Ted Cruz to bar relief payments from going to undocumented immigrants. Meaning DACA, by the way. They're not going to hand out checks at the border. What he was seeking to bar and what his bill would have barred was anybody who's on that path or is in a position to get, their immigration status upgraded, specifically people who are protected by deferred action, the DACA recipients, that they will still get a check because they are effectively undocumented Americans at this point, and we are in the process of remedying that. Ted Cruz was trying to stop that from happening. So, again, but for absence of a quorum, they called the roll in the Senate. There's a lot of finagling and paperwork to be done. Schumer's sitting at his station. There will be another kind of replacement thing coming up, but that's the ball game for the most part. Final vote 50-49. The VP was not needed to break the tie. Tie was broken by a non-voting Republican for whatever reason. Some in our chat room.
I imagine we'll be hearing about that.
Yeah, it's sort of it's kind of a big deal, honestly. This is, and it's, they've been at it for a while. This morning, I don't know if you checked Twitter, but almost all the Democrats in there were posting pictures of the sunrise.
Oh wow, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. So over the course of the next hour or so, I don't imagine they're going to want to wait at all on any of this stuff. So we very well may in the next hour of the show. We got to take a break right now. We'll be back right after these messages.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
We'll be back with more of this
Clerk
after
will
the break.
report the nomination.
Nomination, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Marcia Louise Fudge of Ohio to be Secretary.
I send to closure motion to the desk.
Clerk will report the cloture motion.
Cloture motion.
He's having to fill in because everybody's so tired, so he doesn't know the rules. So somebody there on the floor is explaining to him the mechanics of how to do it. So you have this kind of for those of you that don't know, there's a lot of specific legal things that have to be said that guarantee that a fair vote was taken, that everybody that wanted to be present for the vote was there, or anybody who didn't want to be present for the vote was aware a vote was happening and could leave or, vote for or against. And so there's 3 steps to say, is everybody in the room? Let's check. Yes, everybody's in the room, or everybody who wants to be in the room is in the room. And if they're not in the room, can I just vote that they don't want to be in the room and we got to move ahead without waiting for this idiot to show up in the room? Those kind of, you have to go through that part every time because that's how our Constitution works. And if you don't do that stuff every time, and this is something the Republicans found out last year, your bills and your amendments can get thrown out in court easily because you didn't go through the motions of having a legitimate vote. And so when they get lazy about it, and by the way, no one they have a spotter there who helps you, walk you through the mechanics as you're doing it to make sure you're doing it. But Republicans have a really bad habit when Mitch McConnell is not in the room of ignoring those steps and accidentally
20 seconds left.
Thank you. Of accidentally nullifying their bills. So that's fairly fun. But yeah, we'll be back in 1 second. Just checking on this stuff.
We have to do another one.
This is Doris Davenport, host of the Doris Davenport Show. All local, all the time. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
The Vote-O-Ramma in the Senate continues. These people are not tired enough.
Yeah, I do have a...
They're doing baseline votes.
The motion is agreed to.
Like Bernie Miller?
Nomination.
Yes.
Nomination, Environmental Protection Agency, Michael Stanley.
So now they've moved on to cabinet picks, largely because the Republicans have left and they need 3/5 of a vote, whether you're there or not. Again, you only need 60 votes if all 100 senators are present. And so with a bunch of these jerks bailing out, it looks like Schumer's plan is to table a bunch of these nominations and go, if you guys can't be bothered to stay here, we've all been here all night. We're all here still doing our jobs. If you don't want to be here to block these confirmations, they'll just, they'll just go ahead. We'll just keep working.
That's pretty smart.
Until the session's done. And overall, we will see ultimately where, if any of them run into any problems, but I don't foresee that. There's a couple of other stories I obviously want to address, but this part of it is fairly fascinating, watching the Senate play out. And this is kind of, we're breaking news right now, but insofar as the bill passing, it's curious to me because I wasn't awake for 36 hours, watching all the amendments. How much it has to go back, whether or not it has to go back to the House. I do not believe so.
I'm impressed that you were asleep for 36 hours.
That's right. Well, not in a row. 3 hours a night for basically a month.
There you go.
Yeah. That's how it works, right? That's healthy COVID, faulty wings, But yeah, this is a big deal. This bill has passed. Again, it is... everyone is still calling it the $1.9 trillion relief package. It is closer to 1.6 at this point. More than likely, only about 1.2 of it will be spent. The other funds will either be held in reserve or used to either pay back bond initiatives or be loans that transfer into grants, depending on the use of it. So Hal Vickery is saying if there were amendments, the House has to approve the bill as amended. Right, so that vote might be the next thing that we see coming up. If it punts it over to the House, we will, of course, let's see if that's the U.S. Senate. If we can get back to, it's curious. It may be able to do it with a simple majority in the House, depending on, again, if everybody comes in, if it's already passed the House. But again, for the record, can I just say, point of privilege, if I may, the idea that this bill was not bipartisan because the Republicans chose to stonewall it is not the fault of any Democrat. There were many opportunities. The amendment process was open for, it was an ongoing 48-hour process where they stayed up all night last night. They argued not only for changes in the bill amongst their own party, but they offered possibilities for the Republicans to have their say in exchange for actually voting on it. The Democrats, learning from the Recovery Act issues last time around, simply said, okay, we don't have to go. We don't have to go with your amendments if you're not going to vote, and then keep it within reconciliation. We can still use reconciliation to pass it. And we're not going to open it up and go, okay, we'll use 60 votes. We won't try to pass it in reconciliation because you guys have been talking to us in good faith, only to be stiffed on the vote later. This time around, they have not actually fallen for that. They have not. The Lucy football moment is gone. And so over the course of, I guess, the next couple of hours, bounce back to the House, pro forma vote in the Senate, and off we go. And then the bill will get signed into law, hopefully today. So, and meanwhile, the Senate, while I guess they're waiting around for the bill to go to the House and come back, is confirming members of Biden's cabinet, and or attempting to do so, while Republicans can't be bothered to get out of it, to come out to the floor. That said, there very well may be some of them that come out and run interference and try to stop that. We'll keep an eye on that as it's happening. But, I think this morning, when I got up and I was going over what's going to happen, and I have the Senate vote up and I'm prepping for the show. And one of the news stories that's popped up over the last couple of days is the fact that a member, in the FBI searching for the people who attacked the Capitol on the 6th, they have been posting pictures or groups of pictures of individuals they know to have been at the Capitol. And then once they identify the individual, they provide an affidavit for that person's arrest. And there's a lot to love in this one. They've been snatching up a bunch of these folks, but just the fact
I will never tire of it.
No, just the fact that the special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation who went after this one particular individual, his name is Benjamin Fulp, and that in and of itself sounds like something out of the 30s. You know what I mean? Agent Fulp.
There's something very onomatopoeia about it.
Yes, it is. So, and he is the affiant in this arrest warrant for this particular person. Now, we've heard back and forth from the Republicans and everyone around them that this was really Antifa. The people who charge. Some people, that were there were just following Antifa. They were Trump supporters, but it was only because Antifa had broken in that they're like, you know what? I got my horns on. I have my nipple piercings in. Why not? I've always wanted to see the inside of the Capitol. Right. And I don't know my representative's office number. So when am I going to get this chance again? Right. And so they charged the wall. So I went back and looking at, and some of you watching on the live stream will notice that I'm holding up my iPad, and on it is the actual warrant for the arrest of a guy, Freddie Klein, Federico Guillermo Klein, Freddie G to his friends, and in line with, and in keeping with all these my Aunt Tifa, who showed up with my Uncle Tifa at the Capitol and charged the place. This guy reeks of Antifa, for anybody following it. I mean, deep undercover Antifa, but still, this is the kind of dedication that makes Antifa a very dangerous organization, because they are willing to just go this deep undercover, which required them apparently raising funds for the RNC and volunteering in 2008. Then joining the Trump campaign in 2016 and working undercover in the Trump campaign. And then doing such a good job, of course, faking it. But,
This really is 16 pages of poetry.
Yeah, it is. Doing such a good job that they got a job in the State Department working under Mike Pompeo because they were such a Trump sycophant. Maybe it was all the pictures of them that they took and posted on this guy posted on his Facebook page of him choking or menacing a cardboard cutout of Hillary Clinton. Maybe that's what did it. But it was, I mean, this guy was ready to commit to hide undercover. And Freddie Klein, shortly after Trump's speech at 2:20, when the members of the House were about to vote on the seating the electors and counting the electoral votes as the Constitution requires, and Mike Pence was there to help him. This dude, previously, by the way, known as 136 AFO, which is hard not to make up swear words for. 136 AFO, Freddie Klein. He was included in he was put in one of those seeking information pictures, and they got a bunch of phone calls from his buddies who went, "Oh yeah, that's Freddie Klein. He's a creep." And
everybody wants to give up their friends.
What the day after, like it didn't. Some of these they're still looking, right? Some of these they have not found. They're still looking for a lot of these people, and granted, they all blend together. Most of them could be hiding in the glades in Florida on a golf cart wearing a flag jacket, and they would just fit in with all the other aging diabetics. But the the next day on January, they posted this on the 20th. The next day on January 21st, an anonymous individual, hereinafter referred to as Tipster One, how do you not get a tramp stamp with that on it now? Submitted a tip, as a tipster would do to maintain their number one status, through the FBI Office of Public Affairs online portal, and stated that 136 AFO resembled a man the tipster previously met named Freddie Klein. He indicated that he met Klein on an unspecified date. I mean, you wouldn't want to say. Klein stated he lived in D.C. Tipster provided the Facebook account of Klein, which is Freddie Klein 78. Upon review of the account, your affiant confirmed, that's the person writing this is actually the FBI agent, that the Facebook account was associated with Klein, based in part on the photos posted in the account that bore a strong resemblance to 136 AFO, who can FO. Your affiant also noted that Klein was born in 1978. This would be some clues. This is one more question.
Klein, 78.
Yeah. Klein, 78. So, I'm so glad he wasn't born in the same year we were. But it would have been uncomfortable. We got to take a break. But when I come back, I want to tell you.
It would have rhymed and everything. That'd be horrible.
I know. So, Klein at one point lost his MAGA hat in the middle of the battle.
Well, what did he do? Did he find his hat?
No, he found someone else's red hat that said USM and wore it.
And he put it on anyway.
Yeah,
and
it's red.
Even the warrant, they're like, and the hat doesn't fit.
Right, it does. It's kind of. Yeah, that's when all the people they were wearing their hats backwards. Clearly Antifa. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't his hat. It was obviously his head was smaller. But we'll be back right after this with more AFO 136. Klein was, oh God. The volume of this is kind of incredible. Let me see if I can.
Just all of that, everything is just like screen grabs with red circles.
Yeah.
And here he is again being a heinous human being.
Yeah. There we go. Did it go up on there? Where'd it go? Come here, you. There it is.
Come here, you.
Why was it canceled? I don't want it to be canceled. Okay. What's happening? A walnut.
Do not disassemble.
What is happening? There it is. I found it. Okay. Your affiant, Benjamin Fulp. Oh, nice. Somebody got. We have a new patron. Thank you so much. Look at that. Patreon.com. Okay, cool. That was easy. That's the first time I've tried that, where I've actually transferred a web page from my one device to another. This is getting spooky. This dude. But it made me, what was interesting is
we're back in 20.
Thank you. In this, they have all kinds of They've got his LinkedIn account. They've got his Facebook account. They've blacked out the phone numbers, which I think is smart because he probably doesn't have it anymore. And somebody else years from now is going to get nasty phone calls or like, dude, meet me at the Capitol.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, Freddie Klein, formerly known as 136 AFO, worked as a White House staffer, worked in the State Department under the Trump administration right up until January 19th. After the 6th, he went back to his job at the State Department. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, he's just in the crowd. You know what I mean? He's just one of these people. There's a huge crowd of people. He was probably there on official State Department business. He had his briefcase and his MAGA hat, and he was just up there to bring in the real electors' home addresses. And he just got squashed in the crowd and pushed forward. Not so much. He was caught on multiple body cameras by the Capitol Police. At one point, stealing a police riot shield and then using it to beat other cops with it. He also, at one point, 50 minutes after Klein was captured by Sergeant Number 2's body-worn camera using the shield as a wedge to keep in the door in the Capitol, the body-worn camera of a different MPD officer, here and after referred to as Officer 1, captured Klein still fighting the officers in the tunnel of the lower west terrace of the Capitol building. Okay, so what we have here, and this is kind of the first real experience of this, that I've seen in any of these affidavits, is a direct link between the White House and the administration, Capitol rioters who are not just going into the building to stop the vote on the floor, but are seeking out people in the tunnels. You remember they were like trap them in the tunnels and gas them. You heard a lot of that stuff. This is a guy who knew where the tunnels were, how they connected, how to get in and out of them, had served at the State Department, had been to the Capitol many, many times, and that's where he went. He didn't go to stand on the floor and have a sit-in. He went to the tunnels, the very same tunnels they were using to evacuate members of Congress and the vice president. Klein is seen multiple times attacking cops with the shield that he got, slamming it into their faces, striking them with it. Yeah. And this is the part that came up. So he at one point he loses his MAGA hat and then he gets it back and all that. And they provide, as part of this affidavit, a long form just edit of multiple views of the Capitol insurrection. It's almost 2 hours long, and I was like, wow, they have it. It's an open source YouTube video. Somebody just posted all this stuff, and at minute 56:14 of the video, it shows him struggling with officers. So I grab that link and I pop it in, and I've seen a lot of this footage, as a lot of us have. But there is a lot more that you have not seen. And right about that moment, I was watching that piece where he's fighting with the cops and he's using this shield to hit them in the body cam image. Then they go to other footage of the crowd outside the Capitol at the south door, I think it was, literally yelling "heave ho" as they squash into the door, like they're in a road show of Pirates of Penzance.
Equal.
And they, it's sort of stunning to me. Like I'd seen the arguments that it was Antifa that broke the windows. We just crawled in through the windows and the like. But the violence of this particular set of people, and then one camera rotates back around, and you see the thousands of people who are, there cheering this crowd, this increasingly tight wedge of human beings trying to get in this door on, and they're yelling "Fight for Trump." They're yelling "Stop the steal." They're yelling "Heave ho," and they're striking and beating police officers. And at that point is the moment where they breach the door and start dragging cops out and striking them. In the footage that you've seen of the guy who hit the police officer with the thin blue line flag, where another officer had his eye gouged out. That's in that exchange. And they're dragging these police officers forward into this crowd and beating them. And this guy who worked under Mike Pompeo in the State Department after serving in the Trump campaign, after being an RNC fundraiser and a staffer since 2008, was not just present, but at the vanguard of breaching the Capitol, assaulting police officers, and effectively attempting, at least, to lead rioters into the tunnels where he knew they would be evacuating staff. An administration official, he officially made a staffer who knows the layout, sent apparently from the White House down to this place by all measure to attack the Capitol. And once he had, welcomed back to his position. Does anyone believe that Klein himself did not brag about what happened on the 6th to everybody else in Pompeo's State Department or anybody else in the White House in his belief that he would be able to, raise up his position? Over the course of these videos, I mean, there's obviously numerous, and I'll post the affidavit on my Twitter feed for anybody who wants to see the whole thing. They have multiple sightings of this guy. He loses his hat, replaces it. People repeatedly recognize this guy. They show footage of the officers that he strikes, and he is being charged as such with. Let's see. Finally, our affidavit submits their probable cause to believe that Federico Guillermo Klein violated 18 U.S.C. 111A1 and B, which makes it a crime to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, or interfere with any person designated in Section 1114 of Title 18 while engaged, which are police officers or military personnel.
Do they have him yet? Do they have this guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Persons designated with Section 114. They issued this arrest warrant, and he was taken into custody. He's the one that's complaining that he's being held in a transitory holding area, and there are cockroaches crawling all over him. That was his gripe.
It sounds bad.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in. Now, granted, imagine the things that crawl over you when you've been beaten to death by a crowd. The worm problem is really ridiculous at that point. But this fella is amongst, by the way, the FBI releasing reports that they have officially linked not only this guy to the White House in a coordinated effort from the White House to send people to there, but people who protected Roger Stone, who was friends with the president, who were in coordination with the president, who were there to act as militia support on the Capitol that day, sort of officially viewing themselves as soldiers of the administration, along with members of the Proud Boys. And, of course, using Roger Stone to stiff arm and create distance for themselves has been a method this White House has used multiple times. Roger Stone holds no official position. He's paid through other sources, but basically we're coordinating. It's the violence version of a super PAC. Effectively, like we play footsie with them, but we don't pay them outright or coordinate directly. We have circular ways of getting around the law in that regard. And Roger Stone is definitely one of those ways. And the people that were running security for him showed up at the Capitol that day. People he had been in contact with at the Proud Boys had been in contact with the White House. They had already been in this kind of triangulated grouping. And there was another thing planned for the 4th, which they backed down on and has now been punted to the 20th. According to the QAnon crowd,
of March or May?
March.
I heard something for May.
Well, they'll always keep going, let's be honest.
There'll always be something 2 months away.
The next one, though, is March 20th. They're getting a little tired of waiting. I have been covering on my live stream over the last week or so a lot of the religious nutbags, and I say that lovingly to people who are religious but aren't nutbags, who have been prophesying Trump's triumphant return to the White House. The allegations that they've been executing, everybody from Tom Hanks to Hillary Clinton, in the basement of the White House, and Trump's really been there. That in some cases he's wearing Biden's skin, that kind of level stuff. There's a large group of Christian quote unquote prophets that have been pushing these dates, and they keep punting them. It's and they've done it again. And so the 20th is the next date. While, by the way, a coordinated complaint is going on in the Republican Party about why do we have this chain link fence around the Capitol? Why is there razor wire? Why are these people here from, why are the National Guard here guarding the Capitol? This is terrible. It's the people's house. They should be allowed to go home. Knowing full well that these people are also, at the same time, playing footsie with the same people that are planning an attack on the 4th, that they decided to not go for it because there was no reason for them to be gathering. It's easy to spot. And now have moved it to the 20th. And they will continue to do this week after week, creating these threats so that they can go, well, the razor wire still needs to be up, and then why is the razor wire still up? That is going to be their plan. Now, I think they're going to pull it down over the next month. That would be my guess. But you will see more staff present than ever before on the steps of the Capitol. We'll be back right after the break for the news. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million, Johnny Million 1, at Johnny Million 1 on Twitter. You can see it right there under his name on the thing. I just moved it around because there it is. We'll be back. Just did a cover of Jumpin' Jack Flash for Pauly Z's
awesome.
fundraiser.
One moment.
Yes.
I'll be right back.
Understood. Yes. All right. I will go solo for a second. There we go. Thank you, Benny Loco, for reminding everybody to give a thumbs up, and welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. For those of you that watch the regular stream, it might be odd or new for you to experience the radio show. It's legit, terrestrial radio using transmitters, old school stuff like that. I mean, I also stream it like my regular show, but we do this. And so Johnny's kind of, running chat and info at the same time, so he's with me. And and then and then we have callers and the like and all that. And hey, he's back. Hold on. There we go. I was just explaining your existence. You're getting a blanket because it's
Did
chilly.
Did somebody ask why I'm here?
Huh? Yes.
Did somebody ask what does he do anyway?
Well, no, we do get, because I've been live streaming, unlike the radio show, just streaming when I was just doing it on Saturdays. It was really just only the group that knew the show or learned of the show because of the show. So they always knew it was us, right? But now I do it every day, and you're only on Saturdays, so
I see.
Some folks are new, and that's cool. By the way,
I'm
if you aren't
pretty up to join.
Huh? Yeah, that's right.
I'm here pretty up to join.
That's right, absolutely. To wear winter outdoor clothes indoors because it's so chilly in Chicago. Let's see. Yeah, and thanks for posting that. Can't Stop Lying. 773-763-9278 is the number. It's in the chat room if you want to call in. We will. Hold on. I need to. I've got a mouse and a trackpad, and from two different computers running at once. I'm literally ambidextrously running this thing. Hold on. Okay. Go to live. Should pop up. I don't know why it doesn't refresh itself. There it is. Go to the control room. Excelente. That's very impressive, Carla. I can barely run one Instagram account. I try. I really do. But I go long periods without posting, because it just can't. Here, just in honor of Johnny Million, I'm going to, the pinned merchandise in the chat on YouTube is going to be a sweatshirt.
Nice.
Yeah, Johnny's my hairdresser. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He just cheers me on as I grow it out.
You go. He grows it for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget. Biden is too old. He does to bed at 7 o'clock. Oh, I see. That's someone trying to make fun of Biden for actually doing his job. And yeah, he's old.
Go to bed at 7 o'clock. That's goals.
Wouldn't that be? Yeah. It's amazing when you actually do your job. You probably could go to bed at 7 o'clock. I mean, he doesn't, but he also does not have the benefit of rails of Adderall and cocaine, so to keep him awake. Like Trump or Bush Jr. There's all sorts of extra chemical additives that help you stay up late, that are popular in the Republican crowd. It's a good time. Let's see. There you go. Hey everybody. There we go. There's this. And then we're back. And then we'll run all this stuff. I'm running sites left and right.
Seems that way.
Crazy. Yeah. W was an addict too, of course. Aw, that's sweet. Yeah, well, boo-hoo. I don't know why. No, this is one I was going for. There you go.
It takes over the whole screen.
Coming back in 20.
You're slow clapping me.
Is that what that is? It looked like he was burping, like. It's just rude. We're almost back. Here we go.
That's no way to burp.
It isn't. No, you gotta bring your A game. Hal, I got my T-shirt and I love it. I can't guarantee you, but I will post a pic and tag you on Twitter. Thank you, Jess.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program.
It's true, you are.
Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Plus Facebook, lipstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So I am currently posting that the affidavit from the arresting officer from the FBI on my Twitter account. For those of you that were interested in this, as we talk a little bit more about AFO 136 and the
it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, there's a lot. It was funny that he lost his MAGA hat and just picked up whatever red hat was laying on the ground and instantly was like,
He had to have a hat.
Why is everybody treating me so much better? And you're like, oh, because you're wearing a Marines hat as opposed to just your standard run-of-the-mill Trump merch. And then, like, everybody's, like, patting me on the back and telling me, awesome. Well, that's because they thought you were a Marine. There was... This is not the surprising part, but the affiant submits there is also probable cause, that's fascinating too, to believe that Federico Guillermo Klein violated 40 U.S.C. 5104, which makes it a crime to willfully and knowingly utter loud, threatening, or abusive language or engage in disorderly or disruptive conduct at any place in the grounds or the Capitol buildings with the intent to impede, disrupt, or disturb the orderly conduct of a session of Congress or either House of Congress. So, just so you know, if you stub your toe on the base of the bust of Harry Truman while you're in the Capitol, and you let forth an expletive, you're not in violation of 40 USC 5104. Section 2.
Well, what kind of stuff do you have to yell?
Well, you have to do it on purpose. You got to come in there swearing, not because you stubbed your toe on the base of the bust of the Harry Truman bust, but because you intend to obstruct or impede, disrupt or disturb the orderly conduct of a session of Congress or either House of Congress, or the orderly conduct in that building of a hearing before or any deliberations of a committee of Congress or either House of Congress, engage in any act of physical violence in the grounds or any of the Capitol buildings. So if you punch someone because you stubbed your toe, because you blame them, that's violation of 40 USC. Just saying, But if you just swear randomly and you didn't mean to interrupt everyone, it just really hurt, you're cool. You're all right. Federico Klein, not so much. But this guy in particular there was all this talk about, and this is my own suspicion. And welcome to the show. This is the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. For those of you just joining us on our, the regular stream, and you find me on early in the morning, or you're listening in the Chicagoland area, and you're like, "Who's this guy?" First of all, where have you been? I'm the guy who's been right all along. You remember the guy who said it was going to be Biden-Harris, that it was going to be 300 plus electoral votes, it was going to be 7 million plus vote margin. Remember, I'm that guy. Yeah. Right about everything. I'm sort of like the anti-Q. So reason to come back. And thanks, CSL just sent us a thing about apparently Trump is sending cease and desist letters. This is what it has come to.
To who?
I think it's to the RNC. So, if we're talking about the same thing,
what?
Yeah, so Trump has, and this is new, you have to understand, Trump's using the ongoing grift, and I'll put this on screen so some of the folks can check it out, but Trump is sending cease and desist letters to the RNC, the NRCC, and the NRSC for using his name. Basically, the RNC is fundraising on the former president. They're saying, we are the party of Trump. We're still the party of Trump. Give us money. We're the party of Trump. And Trump is saying, excuse me.
Trump wants that money.
Yeah. Excuse me. I need that money to go to my super PAC, not to the RNC. So attorneys for Trump sent cease and desist letters to the RNC, NRACC, and the NRSC for using his name and likeness on fundraising emails and merchandise. News was first reported by Politico. Trump is reportedly upset that the committees are backing Republicans who supported his impeachment. Yeah, that's why. So the reason he's doing it is because they're making money and he doesn't get any of it. I mean, that's flat out.
Yeah.
You have to understand, Trump's entire career is a licensing and branding exercise. The Trump Organization has not built a building of their own since '91, when his dad still kind of technically ran the company. Ever since then, they have simply been a branding exercise. You build a building, and it's just, the Oakwood Apartments. How about we make it Trump Tower Oakwood, and you guys will get, all the new money idiots want to live there, and you can charge a premium, and we'll take a piece of that. And we'll just do that on a bunch of buildings the world over, where, especially in a lot of foreign countries where people don't recognize what a fraud Trump is, and the brand still has some sort of, like a band that broke up's name. You know what I mean? It still has value in those countries, And so you can build a tower, call it Trump something or other, and we'll just take a piece of it. We're not going to build anything. We're not going to talk to architects. We don't care what it looks like. We don't really even care who lives there, although we would like to offer a couple of premium apartments to some Russians that we know, perhaps. If you could cut them a deal, that'd be sweet. But, that's our way of paying back a loan. So you can either pay us funds or you can give them a free apartment, and then they'll erase some of what we owe them. That would be kind of nice. And so that's basically all they've been doing. So the RNC didn't realize that, I guess, and was trying to do the normal stuff that a party proud of their former president would do going forward, and yet here we are. So just yesterday, the RNC sent out emails requesting that supporters make donation for a card to thank Trump. And it said, President Trump will always, in caps, which is probably why that's putting the word always in all caps. It's probably a violation of he probably patented that, right? Stand for the American people. And I just thought for the perfect way to show I just thought of the perfect way for you to show that you support him. Blah. The email stated, as one of President Trump's most loyal, it's in caps, supporters, I think that you deserve the great honor of adding your name to the official Trump thank you card. And so they sent, according to Politico, GOP insiders said it was impossible not to use Trump's name as he boasts immense popularity within the party's base. Well, keep trying, kids, because he's not going to let you, and I don't know how they get around it. That's interesting. Johnny's just informing me that Senator Sullivan, who would be the 50th vote on the Republican side, his father passed away, and he returned to Alaska for the funeral. Is that what we're...
I got that from Seattle Susie Q.
Well, all right. I'm curious, is the funeral today? Is that what... and therefore just kind of the ongoing vote is what did it? Let's see. This is from The Hill. Senator Dan Sullivan departed Washington, D.C. on Friday to return home to Alaska for a family funeral, leaving Republicans short a vote amid the freewheeling $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. Due to the recent passing of his father-in-law, Senator Sullivan had to depart on Friday afternoon flight back to make it to Fairbanks, Alaska in time for the funeral, which I guess was today. Senator Sullivan intended to vote against final passage of the bill and made his opposition clear in statements on Thursday after his vote against the motion to proceed with consideration of the bill. Sullivan's departure will mean Republicans will have one less vote to rely on as they push amendments going forward, blah, blah, blah. Even with Sullivan's absence, Republicans can still add their amendments if the party remains unified and at least one Democrat defects, which didn't happen except on the UI thing, which was actually Manchin's plan anyways on his own. In a sign of uncertainty, an amendment over unemployment insurance has already snagged the debate over overall legislation. That's what I was referring to. One amendment would provide $300 extra per week in unemployment insurance through mid-July, while a competing amendment would provide a $300 weekly payment through September. Manchin was just running it to July. So that's...
homeowners, this incredible tip is...
Why is this... I'm not running an ad for you guys.
Look here, homeowners.
They tried to...
Homeowners.
Huh? Yeah, they
homeowners.
So, fascinating aspect actually changes the weight of the vote going forward, and that's actually what kept Kamala Harris from having to come down to the floor. We're going to keep track of the vote as well. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. We can also take your calls 773-763-9278. I'm curious if anybody is still bought in on the idea that the Sanders Amendment would have actually gone anywhere, because it wouldn't have. We'll be back right after this. It would have killed the bill. It would have made it die on the vine. It would not have passed. It would have allowed the Republicans to destroy the bill. Mm-hmm. Would? Okay, I'm looking up, seeing if we can find kind of an ongoing, let's see, tries to get abortion trend. Yeah, there's news. Hold on, the Washington Post is posting on what amendments they were trying to push through in the 24 hours, including a ban on transgender athletes.
Back in 20 seconds.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I don't see where it, I mean,
this is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Absolutely, and it was so nice this week that Tom Hartman co-signed on to my proposal that we don't end the filibuster, we have a real one, because an actual filibuster is useful and functional when you're trying to stop madness. But it should be, whoever presents it has to do a legitimate filibuster on the floor of the Senate, and they have to keep talking about the subject at which they are filibustering For the entirety of that time, if they take a break to go to the bathroom or stop talking about it or venture off, someone else can call a point of order, say that the request a floor vote on ending the filibuster right now on a simple majority because they are no longer discussing the topic at hand. They have moved on to reading Green Eggs and Ham, and then we go back to a regular floor vote. If you want to have a legitimate filibuster, that is an extension of actual democratic processes. That is one person standing up and voicing all the deep, abiding concerns they may have about a bill, and feels they can speak long enough to convince everyone else that this bill is a mistake, that what's in it is wrong, or that maybe what it's for is good, but what it will do is bad. Which is a situation where when you have a filibuster amongst your own party, where you have a moment where you're like, guys, I know we want this, but if you don't look at what got through committee and what's actually in this version of it, and it's going to pass with a majority, this will do more harm than good or has long-lasting ramifications. You may not. And at the same time, you have to get rid of anonymous holds. Because, I mean, Tom Cotton effectively admitted he's the anonymous hold holding up Merrick Garland's confirmation right now. That needs to be something people wear around their neck. You can't, if you want to put a hold on something, that's got to be part of your legislative legacy.
Yeah.
You have to.
You should be prepared to answer questions.
That's right. That's the stamp. That's what goes on your. You're the person that stopped all of us from having a functioning normal government because you had a bill. You had a problem with this person, and unless you can explain it, why it was specific about this human being, and convince close to 50% of your constituents, because none of these senators are in runaway districts, even the ones in red states at this point, where they're guaranteed. You're going to have to live with that, and even it may end up that you're replaced by another Republican who's at least open about why they're putting holds on these things, not just using it to protect themselves against a functioning attorney general that might actually look into their financial misdeeds, which is really what's going on here. The holding up of Merrick Garland, the slowing of the attorney general's office especially, and the people that the Biden administration has presented as wanting to run that's literally to protect Trump from being investigated for as long as possible, so that they can, if it takes an extra 3 months, by the time we hit summer, they'll help, people's minds are on other things, other crises will come along because life continues, and that eventually they'll just go, why are you still picking on Trump? Why are you still going? They can't stop. They can't stop going after him. Just like Mitch McConnell delayed the vote on his impeachment until after he was out of office so they could all go, you're trying to impeach somebody who's already out of office. This is the same kind of drag. If we can put an anonymous hold on this, slow these investigations, which we know will take 3 months, if we can delay them another 6 to 10 weeks, then that 3 months pushes it into late summer, into a news cycle we think we can bog down with stories of other stuff. And that will give Trump clearance for that, that difference. Yeah. Give him some distance, rather, so they can get away with it. The Senate, of course, Mitch McConnell is very upset about the passing of the COVID relief bill, the American Rescue Act. He said, the Senate has never spent $2 trillion in a more haphazard way or through a less rigorous process. Yeah, they have, actually. Last year, the funds released into the economy were closer to $6 trillion, and $500 billion of it that was given to Stephen Manchin to oversee has no receipts, none, and we didn't spend $2 trillion. The bill was 1.9. It's more like 1.6. More than likely, 1.2 of it will actually go out the door. It is bigger than it need be, so that you guys can't stifle the process. The reality is that in committee, and as money goes through, and in the long haulers that are left over from the Trump administration that are in, that are kind of burrowed into different areas in government, they're going to slow walk some of these funds. They're going to slow walk some of the relief as best they can. So if you can provide a larger amount of money than you might need specifically for it, that slow walk will not affect the crisis itself. It won't make the crisis worse. If you need $100 million to solve this problem, but you have someone guaranteeing that 20 million of it will never reach its destination, then you are short the funds needed to solve the crisis. So you put forward 160 million, they slow walk 40 million of it, 100 gets where it needs to go, and 20 million is returned back to the government and never actually needs to be spent. That's the function. That's why this bill was so big. It's why the Recovery Act was limited so much, because they limited it to the actual funds needed, and then they stopped as much of it as they could. This time around, that's not possible. That's the big gripe that's coming from the Republicans at this point. And you know, we'll like I said, we're going to keep an eye on the House voting. Let me know, guys, if you guys see it, because I don't monitor, you know, the Twitter sphere while we're doing the actual live show. And of course, our number 773-763-9278. Your thoughts on the amendment process, the bill itself, the actual rescue package, or indeed 136 AFO. Freddie Klein, the State Department aide that was a Trump supporter, campaigner, went in his MAGA hat, lost it in the crowd, picked up a Marine's hat, wore his red hat in, assaulted multiple police officers using one of their riot shields that he stole, but, you know, back the blue, right? Hashtag law and order. And this is going to be a growing number, by the way, because the FBI's big investigation now has turned a corner into the communications. In the same, by the way, in the New York Times article where a lot of this came out today, they did say that there was no, here it is, they collected location and cell call data using what I think it's called something like a cellular wall, where they basically, or a stadium, where they capture everything in a certain area. So after a terrorist incident, like the Boston bombing or 9/11 or those kind of things, what they can do is that anybody who might have been involved in it, they can create a radius, get a warrant for that radius, because they can exclude people who weren't very quickly. But if there were people who were there that they've been tracking outside, go, yep, we cell phone ping them right away, and they're on the move. There is violence happening. So, the Patriot Act, I know the Republicans are a big fan of that, is one of the reasons why you have this kind of technology. And by the way, for the record, this is smart. This is what law enforcement, instead of just doing like getting warrants for organizations they think might be located, Muslim mosques, miles away that had nothing to do with it, in those circumstances, they can literally go, look, the bomb went off here. It was carried in by these people that, this kind of thing happened. We need a radius warrant for people who were in that area. We'll exclude people that were victims. We'll exclude people that were escaping. We'll exclude people who were, part of the people attacked, namely lots of people in Congress and the like. But we will be able to find the people who were there, who planned and planted, either the pipe bombs that were placed there or showed up armed and the like. The same data that they used, the location, cellular, and call data, which was making Josh Hawley nervous this week. If you watch the committee things, he was very concerned. Same data was revealed, no evidence, according to their communications between the rioters and members of Congress during the deadly attack, the official said, in terms of that thing. Now, we all know that most of the communication that was a red flag for a lot of us was Boebert tweeting things about the location of Nancy Pelosi. So that they obviously weren't using WhatsApp, is the question. Oh, we got a new patron. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Right on. By the way, patreon.com/HalSparks, one of the ways you can support the show. Please think about becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do it annually now. You can just do it for the whole year instead of, a monthly subscription kind of a thing. Or you can, of course, Venmo us on the show if you're watching the live stream, or you can give stars on Facebook, super chats on YouTube, or, of course, cheer us on Twitch. Twitter/Periscope. I don't know what to do with you guys. It's just nice to have you around, I guess. You freeloaders, So, all right. But the New York Times says the same data has revealed no evidence of communication between the rioters and members of Congress during the deadly attack, the official said. That undercuts Democratic allegations that some Republican lawmakers were active participants that day. This is according to the New York Times. New York Times, can I tell you something? No, it doesn't. It just means they used overt communication to excuse themselves and pretend they weren't in direct communication. An Aldous lamp or a signal flare doesn't get an answer back. You understand? If they, Josh Hawley's fist in the air hold signal, telling people to basically wait until he leaves the building, until he's at a safe distance before they attack, is not, communications between, which is the key word in this article, between members of between rioters and members of Congress. No, they were simply signaling. Maybe they had no idea of whether or not those people were hearing them, but they were pointing at the people they wanted attacked. And it's hardly a sign of innocence, is my point. But again, they're trying to stick to what they do know, and what they do know is that they don't currently have any evidence of communications between the rioters. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be some found, especially the kind where, look, I can't talk to you guys on the day, I'm going to be in there. I know what the security is in that place. I, as the bank manager, can't text you while I'm in my job as bank manager. So on the day when I'm in the bank, all I'm going to do is pretend to send messages to my family that tell you exactly where the safe is, and I hope they don't find the key in my desk. See how that works? That is what you're going to find. This data, and New York Times writer, whomever I don't know who actually wrote this one, Katie Benner, Alan Feuer, and Adam Goldman. You guys, what you're going to find, and what they're already starting to find through the FBI, is previous communications, coordination beforehand. And part of that is, don't be stupid enough to say anything to us on the day, because they'll be able to track it back, and then that will undercut our "we have a legal claim to be here" argument. Because if you're the ones we're quote unquote attacking to stop the steal, then you have to be a victim. You got to just be there, and you can but don't talk to us on the day. Don't let me because then if they find out the bank manager is in on it, then it's easy enough to just follow him to the payday and catch the bank robbers. You see how this works?
Right.
Are we all that? Are we going to live in this bubble of ignorance, passing off as innocence? We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. This is the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com, and of course they have a SoundCloud. You can listen to all your favorite, people on the channel just by going to their SoundCloud and listen to their shows as podcasts. Links on the website. I'm trying to help. I really am.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do
Sure
your tests.
is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to tell me. Okay. I'm just trying to keep up on the latest, share COVID relief bill. Let's see what the Yep. Let's see. Only thing that he lied about his trip to Cancun is he's like, okay, here's
false.
Here's Ted Cruz on the House floor. This is fun.
For taxpayer-funded stimulus checks.
The senator for Illinois.
Mr. President, the statement of the senator from Texas is just plain false. False. Let me be clear. Undocumented immigrants do not have Social Security numbers.
Yeah, that's a... why did that...
Period. And just in case you didn't notice, they didn't qualify in December when 92 of us voted for that measure, and they don't qualify under the American Rescue Plan. Nothing has changed. And for you to stand up there and say the opposite is just to rile people up over something that's not true.
Will the senator yield for a question?
No, I won't.
Coming back in 20 seconds, and we have callers.
Okay, excellent.
They want to be able to give speeches that say the checks go
Will the
to
senator yield for a leading question?
Yeah, that's actually BS. How do you know it's not going to go to there? Like, I mean, how do you know during a snowstorm that while I'm in Cancun, bills won't fly? Yeah. This is, I want to play it once we get back on the air.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
Just in case you missed it, Ted Cruz went to the floor of the Senate during the amendment process and tried to present an amendment to the bill which would gum up the works and slow things down even further, so undocumented immigrants can't get a check. Well, they can't anyways, and he was insisting that they can.
For taxpayer-funded stimulus checks.
The senator for Illinois.
Mr. President, the statement of the senator from Texas is just plain false. False. Let me be clear. Undocumented immigrants do not have Social Security numbers, and they do not qualify for stimulus relief checks, period. And just in case you didn't notice, they didn't qualify in December when 92 of us voted for that measure, and they don't qualify under the American Rescue Plan. Nothing has changed. And for you to stand up there and say the opposite is just to rile people up over something that's not true.
Will the senator yield for a question?
No, I won't. It is not true. And we know what's going on here. They want to be able to give speeches that say the checks go to undocumented people. In the circumstance where there is a parent
the senator's time has
receiving a
expired.
check for the child, that's it. But no money going to undocumented people under the American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, so basically what they're talking about is that DACA, people who receive DACA protection have a Social Security number, a temporary Social Security number that's associated with them, because the idea is they're on a path of citizenship and they will eventually be citizens, and therefore they, as they pay taxes and live here and have lived here, they will be because they're paying taxes for their retirement, they will be able to receive those things, because by the time they retire, they will be full-fledged citizens. And,
Imagine.
Right. But what Ted Cruz wants to turn that into is they're just going to, we're going to strafe bomb the border with checks for stampeding Guatemalans. That's the story that they're telling in the Senate. And by the way, and we do have callers, so let's grab a couple. 773-763-9278 is our number.
All right, first up is Ken from Florida.
Cool. Hey, Ken, welcome.
Hello, Hal. Hello, Johnny.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Hey, I called today because yesterday I got a newspaper show up in my mailbox. And apparently the Epoch Times is suffering because they've been backing Trump with all his lies, and now their social media has been cut away. So
terrible.
Now they have to mail you a paper to try to get you to buy it.
Were you convinced? Did you sign up? Did you give them your credit card? I mean, answer the third question first.
No, I'm not convinced. I don't want their junk.
Yeah. Well, the Epoch Times is one of the most frequently cited sources on Newsmax and OAN as well. So there's this weird, moron centipede version of just like flooding information back into its own rectum that goes on with the Epoch Times. And again, this kind of stuff. This is what regular newspapers, the mainstream media, did for years. They established a worth within the community. Eventually, people bought the newspaper. People in Florida would buy the New York Times and the Washington Post because it became a trusted source. That over the years, they could look back at articles written and gone, by and large, What they told me was absolutely true. And where I may disagree with some of the opinions occasionally or the characterizations that come up, the facts themselves bear out over time. And because of that, then mainstream media grows and expands as the trust matrix grows. And then what do you do if you're a country in the world that has state-controlled media like Russia does or China does? Well, you attack the free press in the United States using your agents of chaos like Donald Trump. You create a flood of the concept of fake news, and you build a distrust for both open media and for democracy. The goal is to make people think that those are failing systems. The failing New York Times. All those, that is literally part of the methodology and what they sent Donald Trump effectively to do. Let's see, we have time. Yeah, let's grab another caller real quick. Who do we have?
Up next is Marcia from Oak Lawn.
Excellent. Hey, Marcia, welcome. Are you there? Marcia? There she is. A little choppy. Marcia, if you're okay, blink twice for if you're all right. Okay, go ahead. I think we can hear you better now.
Okay.
No, Marcia, Marcia, you're a little choppy. You're gonna have to call us back on a landline. I apologize, but we're literally just hearing probably every eighth vowel. I'm sorry about that because I am curious about what you want to say. So call back, please. Let's grab another caller if we can until Marcia can call us back.
Right. Paul from Seattle is up next.
Right on. Always nice to have Paul from Seattle. Paul, welcome.
Hi, Hal. Well, I want to start out with the kick of the week. That'd be the kick chuckle of the week. Would be Richard Barnett, Mr. MAGA, losing his butt in the pretrial hearings.
Right.
On
Thursday
when
Big O or whatever his name is, right? What?
They postponed. I don't know if it was his arraignment or his next hearing is going to be on May 4th, and he went, "No, I've been in here 30 days already."
Yeah, everybody else is getting out.
You're facing 20 years, and you can't take 90 days in jail. Oh, you know what? Do you know how many people have spent 90 days in jail for any number of minor infractions, especially people of color? I just thought, you just go to hell, you white fascist.
The idea that I think we all got perverse joy in him complaining. It's right up there with the QAnon shaman not getting organic food, and and his complaint about his diet, and then the interview with his mother. Tomorrow night, I really do think this is shameful, but tomorrow night, 60 Minutes is interviewing the QAnon shaman and his mother. What other situation do violent trespassers? I mean, the dude was sporting a spear with a point on it. They had all brought these flagpoles that had metal tips on them to use as weapons. They go into this place. I mean, there's umpteen pictures because people didn't realize until later. I guess the one cop losing his eye by having one of them jabbed into his head wasn't evidence enough for folks. But this guy breaks into Nancy Pelosi's office, brags on camera about stealing from her office, leaves her a threat on her desk, a written note that's a threat that he's going to come back, and believes that he has every right to continue this fight. Why would anyone release this guy into the public? But apparently he thinks he should get a break, that Trump should have pardoned him on the way out the door. None of them have seen any of this, by the way. Are you still with us, Paul? I just want to make sure you're there. Cool.
Yeah, I was just... Go
ahead.
Yeah, I just don't have any sympathy for that guy at all.
No.
Just move real quick. Yeah. But in terms of the relief bill, I like the bill. I think this is what has to happen. Given that the vaccine rate is going to ramp up, and I know a lot of people who've gotten their second shot already. I think what has to happen is the Democratic surrogate on the 4th of July weekend, or 4th of July week, have to, not Joe Biden, but Democratic surrogates have to declare America once again independent from COVID. And this will basically say we have beaten in 6 months or 5 months.
Yeah.
Joe Biden has liberated America from 5 years of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message they have to crow about.
I agree.
They really have to brag. And the other thing is, I'll just, I'll let you comment on it, let you go because we got a break coming up. But I was really disappointed in 9 Democratic senators. Maybe this is strategic. 9 Democratic senators voting against the $15 an hour minimum wage. I'm really worried that Democrats, what they do is they get malaise and they get disheartened and they don't show up. And 2022 is going to be critical to tip the balance which way the 50-50 is going to go.
Sure.
I'm worried about.
Well, I think here's ultimately, I mean, it's hard to argue with the public, and I appreciate the call, and we are getting close to the break, and I'll say this, that again, if you add that amendment to this bill, if that had actually gotten through, you would need 60 votes to pass it. When the bill just passed, and it 50 to 49, we did not need the VP because Sullivan had to fly to Alaska for a funeral. If that $15 amendment is in there, it will. You could absolutely bring the bill to the floor still, and it would be voted down. It would go the way of I guess any of Ted Cruz's amendments. It would have died the same death, and with it, $1,400 checks per adult and child. For anybody making individually less than $80,000 after taxes, $160,000 for every couple. Didn't matter how much you're making if you have the kid still gets the check. If you have children, that's the way it goes. Unemployment at $300 all the way through September 6th. They talked Manchin into supporting, not shortening it to the summer, but keeping it through September 6th. $350 billion for city, states, and tribes. $3,000 per kid at 6 to 17, $3,600 for kids 0 to 6. $170 billion for schools, retrofitting their ventilation, basically fixing up. It's effectively an infrastructure bill for America's schools. It's incredible. $100 billion for public health, and that's just for starters. If you add that, and again, all of those Democrats that voted against the amendment are going to vote for a version of whatever makes it to the vote of $15 minimum wage standalone bill. And the only ones that it seems, and by the way, we talk about minimum wage a lot, but we don't talk about the median income and how it affects the votes in a lot of these places. While the minimum wage is $7.25 and the tip waiters get 45% of that, the average wage beyond that, even starting wage in a lot of these places that most people work that aren't mom and pops, that are effectively above minimum wage. And in the case of Kristen Sinema, that, like I said, they're already on track to a $15 minimum wage within their state. New Hampshire and Delaware, who also voted against the amendment, both of their senators on both sides, also have at the 25th percentile in their wages, one of the lowest percentile practically of functioning wages. People are at $20 to $22 an hour, even though the federal minimum wage is $7.25. The state minimum wage in all those places is far higher. Raising that, and those states have a concern that if you raise the state minimum wage from 7 to 15, the minimum wage in their state has to propensity go from 20 to 22 to 25, 27, which will put small businesses that are already paying at a higher rate than the federal rate out of business, because everybody will go to Costco or to Walmart or to Target and work there, and you'll lose the employee base, and that's how it goes. That's part of the concern. That's why you phase it in. That's why you phase it in based on size of company. It's why you phase it in on time based on size of company. Giant corporations and franchise, 4 years to do it. Small mom and pops, 6 to 8 years. Under 10 to 20 employees, you have a 6 to 8 year phase in. Under it, whether if you've got an IPO, you obviously are at a faster rate than if you are just a family-owned business or a farm, for example. You have to put in provisions that allow for these kind of things, or those people will collapse under the weight of the giant corporations, and it becomes a giveaway to them. Effectively, all the educated employees go that direction. Everybody else gets the rest, and nobody, and it sets them back as far as their employee base. That's part of the concerns. That's why they vote for a standalone bill that needs debate, that goes to committee, that stands on its own. And they also didn't want to lose the entire COVID bill, which just passed the Senate. We'll be back right after this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I get why people would hope people would.
Right now.
Yes.
Hal?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Andrea Darlis. I'm on after you.
Uh-huh.
I love you.
Thanks.
I've been a fan
Hi,
of yours
Andrea.
for so long. I wanted to tell Paul, I had to say that I'm just such a fan of yours. I just love
thanks. Nice to cyber meet you. Hello.
you. Nice to cyber meet you too.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully in-person live WCPT gatherings are in our future. Fingers crossed, in the next 6 months or sometime this summer, we're able to do that.
Oh, I hope so. Absolutely. It'll be a great party for sure.
I insist. Well, nice to meet you. Have a great show.
Thank you, Hal. You too.
Cheers.
That's nice.
Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah, so I get that people want people to vote for stuff to make a stand, but if it destroys the rest of it and harms people, I don't know why you think that's good. You know what I mean? How is that any different than storming the Capitol and saying we need fresh bodies up here? You know it's going to fail. You're endangering lives. You want to beat cops, but you think we at least made our stand and scared all the right people. We're going to jail for it, and none of what we wanted to accomplish happened. But at least we've got bragging rights on the cell block. That's that. Our fam is the bestest. This is true.
I forgot the happy ending liner.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. It in and of itself, it is a happy ending. Welcome back to the show. This is the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more. Johnny Million. Johnny's with us. He's typing away in the chat room and looking at stuff and links and shopping online for deals. Ultimately, we're going to see this play out over the next couple of hours. But there is a serious tide a-turning in terms of this relief bill. This is not the Recovery Act debacle of 2009, where they muscled the new administration into having to take less than they needed. Again, when they ask, it's almost like, you ever seen like a metal bar that's bent in one direction and you want to straighten it out? You cannot just bend it straight because it will correct back slightly in the direction it was bent. You have to overbend it to get it straight, right? That's where, and in a lot of times in recoveries and in situations like this, to get people right, to get people back to where they were, you have to overcorrect and then fix the issues later.
Yeah.
If you care, I have to say, if you care. The other big thing was, and you'll remember this argument, Johnny Million, is that the Democrats always go and they ask for exactly what they need, and then they, in the deal, they give up all this stuff because they didn't ask for what they wanted, they asked for what they needed. And the Republicans always ask
and they asked for what they thought Republicans would be okay with.
Yes, right. So you ask for what you need, you get half of it. You ask for what you want, you get what you need. And the Republicans always ask for what they want, and they get everything they want, which isn't true, but that's the myth. And then Democrats always ask for what they need, and never when they could have asked for what they wanted. And then when they get what they need, the Republicans take what they need and cut it in half by slow walking it or destroying the conduits of government through which it's managed. look at any national emergency or any situation where they, where you've got the Ted Cruz of the world trying to stop aid for Atlantic City, after Hurricane Sandy, that kind of stuff. So, what effectively Biden came in with was a $1.9 trillion ask, the largest direct ask and the no effing around ask that people would like to see, and one that survived the amendment process, one that maintained almost the entire functioning elements of it. It didn't get cut in half. It didn't get all the wailing and gnashing of teeth that they're going to ask for 1.9. It's going to be maybe 1. Maybe they'll get 800. Maybe they'll cut it in half. Maybe it'll go to 1.6. And then all these Republicans, remember that it was going to be $800 billion. It would be far less than what was needed. We're doing the Recovery Act all over again. And the Democrats just can't do it, man. Why do they always step on the rake? What happened? What actually happened? Not the news reports that were told, to worry and that it was going to be, you're going to see history repeat itself. What actually happened? What actually happened was the Democrats held debate open 24 hours, stayed up all night, working through on a Saturday, didn't leave, and passed the whole bill. $1.9 trillion relief package for the American Rescue Act passed the Senate with no significant undermining of any program, an extension of UI all the way to September. I actually thought the final version might have actually included the shortened version that Manchin was possibly asking for, but apparently they convinced him. And so it will stay there through September. Every element still in this package. Relief for cities, still in this package. Support for schools, rebuilding the ventilation systems in the nation's schools is in this bill.
It sounds important.
It kind of does. It kind of does. It sounds like a giant frigging win for Democrats who were all ready for the VP to cast the deciding vote, and because Sullivan had to return home, condolences to his family, and I'm sad that that's how this worked out. It would have been a 50-50 vote with the VP, but because a senator from Alaska had to return home, and again, that's a sad thing for his family. That's not the way this vote, and he voiced opposition to it. So you can count that he voted effectively. He wanted his vote to count against it, but ultimately that's the way it weighed out. It was going to be 51-50, another Van Halen vote. But now it's, by the way, this is the year of Nerd Halen. I'm just saying because Nerd Hagar, anyways. So, but let's understand. Can we just recognize? Can you recognize that the Democrats brought forth a $1.9 trillion bill, and it survived the amendment process, and was passed today on a party line vote? We'll go to the House, we'll pass that, we'll come back, probably a similar vote. If Sullivan returns on Monday, it will be a 51-50 vote if it takes them that long to do it. And what did the senators, the Democratic senators, do today after that? After this 36-hour marathon of getting this bill passed, what'd they do?
Netflix and chill.
Nope, they stayed and continued to confirm Biden's appointees. That's what they did. They're still working right now for everyone. And so for all the Twitterati wailing and gnashing of teeth that we heard yesterday, and the faux-gressives going, I'm voting for Trump next time. They never win. Because they didn't vote for an amendment that would have killed the American Rescue Act.
Yeah.
Would have all of the stuff, all the things you think are good in that, all of that. If that amendment had passed, all of those things go away because you need 60 votes to pass it. Ask Ted Cruz about the 60 vote margin right now. No, neither side has access to a 60 vote margin on most things, except maybe some cabinet picks where they can just rubber stamp and get on with it, because a lot of them are going to claim they're going to pick strategic people that they're going to let through and go, I voted for their person. I would so that they can complain about policy later. But this is this is important, and this is worthy of a victory lap. And the bill that passed is the bill presented. The bill that got through was almost is intact. Do you understand how amazing that is? This is really impressive, and they have so HR 1319, the American Rescue Act, has passed 50 to 489 in the Senate. It will go back to the House for a quick vote, and then it will return to the Senate, and will either pass on the exact same line with a simple voice vote with no amendments, and then, or it will be 51-50, and Kamala Harris, the Vice President, will have to break a tie vote on Monday morning. But my belief is that they're going to continue through with this. We'll see. Let's see. Okay, now they're reporting, by the way, the measure will be voted on in the House on Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday will be the next vote, and then it will return to the Senate probably same day for a vote, and be signed into law more than likely that day. So Tuesday's the next session. The House is going to meet then. So we will stay on top of this, but this bill is going to go through. They're not losing votes in the process. This is the Senate's version. It will go back to the House. It will pass. The Democrats will pass it, and it will go back to the Senate and get through. No one needs to delay, because UI benefits are going to expire next week for a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
Time is of the essence. Anybody who presents an amendment at this point is doing so simply to slow the process down or kill the bill on either side. Recognize that. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We're here every Saturday. And then, of course, we're live streaming every day at twitch.tv/Hal Sparks.
Hal cannot stop.
I can't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. It's nice being right. It's nice being, the one person you're like, oh, yeah, well, that did work out the way you said it was going to work out. You're welcome. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks to everybody. Thanks, Damien. Thanks, everybody at CPT. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, Hal, Johnny, great show. See you next week.
Yes, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Signing off on Chicago. There you go. And then they close all that. And then yeah. So good time. Yeah. So Senate approves Biden's $1.9 trillion Saturday, securing additional aid for American families, workers, business. A legislative victory for the Biden administration. You think? 40 days in, dude passes his bill intact, with people on both sides trying to scuttle the bill, trying to wreck it. Got through. $1,400 stimulus checks, which add up to $2,000 from the $600 that was passed. You were never promised $2,600. Relax. $300 a week in jobless benefits through September. Child allowance up to $3,600. $350 billion in state and local aid, $34 billion for ACA subsidies, $14 billion in vaccine distribution, and 100% COBRA subsidies. Just incredible. And it will pass the House in the same way. It will come back for a vote in the Senate, and it will get signed into law. This is the last hurdle. There is, let's see, finally, 5049, as we know, because we were on top of it. That's it, yeah. Schumer, Pelosi, Biden coordinate $1.9 trillion rescue package for the United States. Important. COBRA is freaking expensive. Agreed. So, folks, the gripey side of, take a victory lap. God damn. The number of people who were saying that the people who voted against Bernie Sanders' amendment were voting against $15 minimum wage is false. It's a lie. There might be some of them that were like, yeah, but not this way. But they weren't. If I can't say this enough. If Sanders' amendment got in, that bill that just passed the Senate would have died. It would have needed 60 votes. You would have had to find 10 Republicans to sign on to it. Not a one did. Not one. Not one did now, much less with that added onto it. You weren't going to add, by adding a $15 minimum wage, even though it's popular in red states, you wouldn't add a single Republican vote. It's an absurdity. And no victory yet? Why would we celebrate? There is a victory. It passed the Senate. It's going to pass the House in this form. There's no secondary amendment process. They can strip some stuff out if anybody tries to add it in there. But the amendment process is over in the Senate. It just goes for a floor vote next time. It's passed. McConnell already released a statement. Yeah. I object. And I don't care. I mean, this is the reality. I mean, I can't look. I say this all the time, and I'm right all the time. I am like, listen. I'm not just talking out of my ass. This isn't wishful thinking, and I don't like when people get inflated ideas of what's possible when they aren't, and then get mad when the impossible doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Why would you ever get your hopes up about something impossible and then get mad when the impossible doesn't happen and blame your own side for the impossible not occurring? It's nuts. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing.
It's been really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. And unless you're mad because the bill went through, unless you wanted it to die, there was no singular reason to cheer on any of the amendment process. Any of it. Because you don't think Democrats fought tooth and nail in the House and in the Senate to get as much in there as they could get passed? You don't think there were? I mean, that's what committees are for. They sit through this. Committees work up the pieces of it. The pieces go back to the caucus. The caucus discusses it in their meetings and go, okay, this is the part of it that we really are sticking on. We know that part. We understand that part. We understand that part. This is the part we really need to go back and ask for more on, or we think there's too much of this, so we can save some here and put it here. That would be our instigation. So the caucus sends their people back to the committee on behalf of them. The people in the committee act as a representative of the caucuses or the party itself in that committee. They work through it. They vote on what gets out of committee, then they move forward. And the Democrats have a majority in the committees, therefore what they want gets through, but they don't always agree on the best way to spend these things, so there's a lot of reasons to talk this stuff out. Then it gets written up, then they look at the part that's written up and go, does this legally fit? Can it stay? If we put this in there, will this bill get stripped out because some local Fed judge that Trump put in will attack it and erase it like they did with the individual mandate? They can't wait for these things. We can't leave gaps in this. Then it goes back to the caucuses to, go, okay, we can't add that because it makes it illegal if we add this and this. You want to give this up to get that? And they go, no. Okay, that's fine. And they send it back to the committees. Then it comes out of the committee, and then it becomes a written bill. And then the written bill gets voted on. And everybody's like, nobody's read the bill. Everybody's read the bill in pieces and been informed of what the content is in multiple meetings over the course of days and days and days. Nobody sits there and goes, does this actually say that? Because people who write up the bill take an oath to actually craft the law properly. And, and when the Republicans are like scribbling stuff in the margins, the reason they were doing that is because they violated that oath. They had to go, we have to scribble that extra shit in there, otherwise it won't pass. It can't legally exist. They forgot about it. They didn't care. They were writing it with crayons and hammers. Let's see. I'm going to see if there's more. Yep. Biden Dems prevail as Senate okays $1.9 trillion virus relief bill.
Nice.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. I mean, obviously, it'll pass in the House. We have a 10-vote margin. The Republicans will vote a block against it. Help large portions of their people. Yep. Ta-da! So, who's the censor today? I don't know. I would take 11% with 11 with 100% insurance. I'm not sure what that conversation. How Joe Biden is speaking now? Okay, cool. Let's see. what Biden has to say on the. If he's making a statement, there he is.
For miles. Did any of you ever think you'd see that in America? In cities all across this country? Families facing the threat of eviction. This nation has suffered too much for much too long. And everything in this package is designed to relieve the suffering and to meet the most urgent needs of the nation and put us in a better position to prevail. Starting with beating this virus and vaccinating the country. The resources in this plan will be used to expand and speed up manufacturing and distribution of vaccines so we can get every single American vaccinated sooner than later. I believe we'll have enough by the middle of May to vaccinate. It's going to take longer to get in their arms, but that's how much vaccine we'll have. Because of all the funding, we'll be able to hire more vaccinators, set up more vaccination sites to get the country in a place to get back to normal. This plan will get checks out the door starting this month to the American people who so desperately need the help. Many of whom are lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, will I lose my job if I haven't already? Will I lose my insurance? Will I lose my home? Over 85% of American households will get direct payments of $1,400 per person. For a typical middle-class family of four, husband and wife working, making $100,000 a year total, with 3 kids, they'll get $5,600. With 2 kids, they'll get $5,600, and it'll be on the way soon. That means the mortgage can get paid. That means the child can stay in community college. That means maintaining the health insurance you have. It's going to make a big difference in so many lives in this country. Unemployment benefits will be extended for 11 million Americans who've lost their jobs, who last night, again, were lying in bed thinking, my Lord, I'm going to lose my unemployment insurance in a week or so. It was about to expire. Schools are going to have the resources they need to open safely. States and local governments that have lost tens of thousands of essential workers will have the resources they need available to them. To those laid off police officers, firefighters, teachers, and nurses they can rehire. These are essential personnel.
I gotta step out, Hal.
Understood.
Look, the American Rescue
Cheers,
Plan
be well.
lowers
Thanks for
healthcare premiums.
hanging out, Johnny Million.
Food
Love you.
nutrition
Of course, anytime.
It's
I'll
hard
see you
to
next
believe.
week.
Excellent. Okay.
24 million adults and 11 million as
Hold on
I
one second.
speak in the United States suffer from food insecurity. That means simply they don't have enough food to eat.
Okay.
Did you ever imagine in the United States of America,
Biden speaking, they just passed.
you'd see lines literally miles long, kids, folks in their automobiles waiting for a box of food to be put in their trunk. I stood in line handing out food. The people coming up never, ever, ever thought they'd be in that position. This helps families who are behind in their rent and their mortgage payments so they aren't thrown out of their homes. Look, the bottom line is this. This plan puts us on a path to beating the virus. This plan gives those families who are struggling the most the help and the breathing room they need to get through this moment. This plan gives small businesses in this country a fighting chance to survive. And one more thing. This plan is historic. Taken all together, this plan is going to make it possible to cut child poverty in half. Let me say it again. It's significant, historic. We'll cut child poverty in half. There's much more to this bill, but for now, let me make one final point. When I was elected, I said we were going to get the government out of the business of battling on Twitter and back in the business of delivering for the American people, of making a difference in their lives, giving everyone a chance, a fighting chance, of showing the American people that their government can work for them. And passing the American Rescue Plan will do that. And you know, it may sound strange, but a lot of senators and congressmen I want to thank, but I really want to thank the American people for making all this possible. You say, well, how did they make it possible? Well, quite frankly, without the overwhelming bipartisan support of the American people, this would not have happened. Your elected officials heard you. Overwhelming public support. Every public opinion poll shows overwhelming support for this plan. And for the last weeks, it's shown that. Every public opinion poll shows that people want this. They believe it's needed, and they believe it's urgent. Now this bill returns to the House of Representatives, which has done a great job from the beginning. I hope it will find quick passage so it can be sent to my desk to be signed into law. By passing the American Rescue Plan, we'll have heeded the voice of the American people, not ignored their voices. By passing this plan, we would have delivered real, tangible results for the American people and their families. And they'll be able to see and know and feel the change in their own lives. And by passing this plan, we'll have proved that this government, this democracy, can still work. What has to be done? It'll improve people's lives. And one more thing. The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives, the economists, as I said, left, right, and center, say, in addition to the needs the people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble. This will create millions of new jobs. There's estimated over 6 million new jobs by itself. Increase the gross domestic product by $1 trillion. Put our nation in a position to outcompete the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is moving, particularly China. And to know that as tough as this moment is, there are brighter days ahead. There really are. As I said before, it's never a good bet to bet against America. It's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We are America. We're going to get there. We're going to remain the leading economy in the world and going to be the most successful economy in the world because of you, the American people. Thank you, and God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, so I mean, you pretty much just that sums it up. So let me grab. I'm just looking through the chat. I just want to pause the shaman guy. Yes, I'm very positive in that regard. Oh, you couldn't hear his statement? Could you guys hear it okay? What do the press want to talk about? I probably the $15 minimum wage or the other amendment process or whatever. If they don't make significant changes in the House bill, I think it just goes straight to his desk, is what he was saying. So if they change something that means that the Senate has to revote on it, it will, then it would go back and it bounces back and forth. But I don't think, thank you, cool. I'm glad you guys could hear it. This is, yeah. Oh, he is taking questions? Did they go back to it? Oh, okay. They just didn't do it on the feed on here, on the White House's Periscope thing. Hold on. Let's see if they have it.
I said we're going to get the government out of the business of battling on Twitter. Okay. It can work for...
All right, so they're just... That's clips that they're using. We'll find it. Don't worry. I'll dig it up. Yeah, now everybody's just quoting him. I mean, it must be, this has got to be driving them nuts, the Republicans in particular. Because they effectively just destroyed Somebody's like
giant step forward in delivering not have happened.
All right. Nope, that's still the. I'm looking for the part where they have him in question. Here's a tweet from Chuck Schumer. I just spoke with President Biden to thank him after the Senate Democrats passed the American Rescue Plan, big, bold, urgent COVID relief for people across the country. And he's wearing his democracy socks, which oddly match the pattern on his thing. I'm sure there's some sort of QAnon thing in this. Yeah, but just for the record, he's done now? Yeah. Whoops, hold on, that's me. There we go. Yeah, I mean, they don't really, I don't know what else that you're going to ask about it other than the fact, what in the world? Good Lord. By the way, don't forget to follow Nerd Halen, by the way, at Nerd Halen on Twitter. Really helps. Apparently, we are close to 5,000 followers on the Nerd Halen account. We're 24 follows away. So send it to your friends, especially if you're going to come see a show. If you're going to come see a Nerd Halen show at some point in the future, spread the love. These are going to be fun. And I'm going to have to, like, put my hair up in the back or do something for Nerd Halen show. It's going to be fascinating. I'm going to need to have some sort of like pull thing where my hair's like kind of like ponytailed up and up under there, so I have my nerd hairdo, and then I pull a string and it just flops down and I go full like, might as well jump. You know? I think that's got to be a part of this. Lincoln Project, not a single Republican voted for the American Rescue Plan. Exactly. Yeah. By the way, the Republicans are calling it the stimmy because they think giving it some sort of like Black Street vernacular makes people think of welfare queens. So they're floating the hashtag stimmy thing. Get your stimmy, that kind of idea. The Republicans are going to be pushing that over the next little bit. It's the Obama phone kind of giving it to, you know, that this is really just a payoff to black people. There you go. This is what tweet. Every Republican is tweeting, and every Democrat is tweeting, and Stacey Abrams. So, yeah, hand in glove, as it were. Yeah, good times. And Matt McDermott is saying, please don't lecture Democrats about bipartisanship when every Republican just voted against $1,400 stimulus checks, reopening schools with funding, extended unemployment benefits, and legislation that 76% of Americans support. Exactly. Yeah, so good times. I'm going to be on Stuttering John's show at 1 o'clock today. He asked me to come on to talk about this. So I will be back doing that. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll be back, just on his show later on. And then tomorrow, Flappers show, and I'll be live at Flappers. I think Ginger and a couple other people might actually be showing up in person. Very exciting. And we'll have a live show. Now, there'll only be like 8 or 10 people in the whole showroom. Hold on one second. I want to check something before I go. I always do this, and then we get off into rando hangout. Then we're just dangling, man. But over the course of finding the audio drops, find your way back. Where are we? Right. Yeah, we'll go 3, 21. There you go. Oh, there they are. Good. Okay, so bink. Let me grab these, download these, then then I can leave with 2 special additions to our Open Farango. There we go. We'll add 2 little special audio drops to our package today, which is really fun. These guys right here. Okay, that's this. And this one, and this one. We'll drag these down into here. And
the biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
That one.
Transvestites.
Transvestites. So that'll be one of our.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
And so these are the ones that I can't use on the.
Wow.
Yeah.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not on the radio. I'm not on the radio anymore. I'm okay. I'm clear of the radio. I can actually say,
Wow.
To.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
Transvestites.
Yeah, that's who. Who?
Transvestites.
Transvestites.
Q-snatch.
I see. All right. Well, just to do.
Transvestites.
Yeah.
Q-snatch.
That exactly.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
I know. It's so important, that,
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's terrible. So, more to come in that arena. I'm going to go post some videos, and then I'll be on Stuttering John's podcast at 1 o'clock. I will see you guys later. Thank you guys for joining. Thanks for all the support. Thanks to our new patrons. Thank you so much for signing up today. I appreciate that. We got 2 new patrons today. Our goal is 1,000. Please think about joining us, either annually or monthly, whatever you may see. And as we get into live shows again, that's when it really starts to pay off to be one, because simply coming to one live show pays off what most people do as their Patreon for a year, just through being able to bring themselves and a guest on my list to the live shows. So I'm just saying it's worth it, and it helps out, and I got a kid to feed. So, which, by the way, his spring break starts next week. So I will be on the week of like the 15th or whatever that is, the 14th. I will be on a limited basis. It would be a couple of travel days, and then, of course, there'll be a couple of shorter shows. I'll try and hop on with you guys during the spring break week, but, family time being what it is, and we haven't really seen family in a long time. So, yeah, that'd be lovely. So, anyways, love you guys. I will see you very, very soon, and if you're going to come over to Stuttering John's, I'll see you at 1 o'clock. Okay, bye. See ya.
Q-snatch.
Transvestites.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
Wow.
Q-snatch.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
A chat with you and somehow death loses its sting.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
Groovy.
Did have shade.
Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
I know he can get the job, but can he do the job? Stop breaking the law, asshole! Q-snatch.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell?
I do it because I have, a good memory, because I'm cognitively there.
Yosemites.
Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Carrot.
Butthole!
Wow.
Transvestites.
What the hell? Good old boy syndrome is what I call it.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
Wow.
And we developed just some very good friendship.
I know you aren't allowed to talk, but I don't see either one of them jumping up and saying I'm wrong about that.
Good old boy syndrome is what I call it.
Wow.
Operation Warped Speed.
Captain's log.
Very, very virile, viciously and horribly attacking the white race.
The sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
I call the stroker the fabrics of America. Back to you all getting your kickbacks and your patty whack. That's right. The stroker.
Wow.
The stroker.
Wow.
The biggest loser is the state with the shortest stick.
The stroker. Transvestites.
Q-snatch.
I call the stroker
Q-snatch. Wow.